I caught my wife cheating and invited her lover for a drink. In the quiet suburban town of Meadowgrove, life seemed to move at a steady, predictable pace. Among the neatly trimmed lawns and white picket fences, the house at 12 Maple Street stood out for its well-kept garden and the warm, inviting light that always seemed to glow from its windows. This was the home of the Johnsons, Tom, a dedicated family man, and his wife Emily, who had always been the life of the party. Tom worked as an accountant at a local firm, a job that provided a comfortable living, but often left him feeling unfulfilled. He loved his routine, waking up early, making breakfast for Emily, and heading off to work. Emily, on the other hand, was a social butterfly. She had a knack for making friends wherever she went and was always the center of attention at any gathering. One Friday evening, as Tom sat in his favorite recliner, sipping a cold beer and watching the news, he noticed something unusual. The house was quieter than normal. Usually, Emily would be bustling around, talking loudly on the phone or practicing her yoga poses in the living room. But tonight, there was an eerie silence. Tom had a feeling something was off. He had set up 3 champagne glasses on the coffee table, 1 full, 2 empty, as if he were waiting for something to happen. And then it did. He heard a car pull up in the driveway. Tom didn't flinch, he just muttered, right on time, as if he had been rehearsing for this moment all week. The front door opened, and in walked Emily, but she wasn't alone. She was with a man Tom had never seen before. The man had a smug look on his face, the kind that said he thought he was smarter than everyone else. Emily introduced him as Jake, a colleague from her part-time job at the boutique. Tom stood up, calm and collected, and shook Jake's hand. "Pleased to meet you, Jake. You mind if I call you Jay?" Jake stuttered something about being fine with that, and Tom laughed. "Sir, please call me Tom. Now, can I offer you 2 lovebirds a drink?" To Tom's surprise, Emily and Jake actually sat down on the couch, sipping champagne as if it were date night at some fancy rooftop bar. Tom watched them, thinking about how loyal cats in the alley behind the KFC were compared to his wife. "So want to tell me what's going on?" Tom asked, leaning forward casually. Emily shifted uncomfortably in her seat. "Tom, Jake and we're in love. I want a divorce." Tom nodded, his expression unreadable. "A divorce, huh? That's real interesting. Are those the papers in that envelope?" Emily's eyes widened in shock. She looked at Jake for support, but Jake was clearly out of his depth. "Yes, Tom. These are the papers. Emily's been very reasonable. She doesn't want the house, the car, or any of your money. Just her freedom." Tom chuckled, not a big laugh, just enough to say they must think he was a fool. He nodded again, filled their glasses, and toasted to new beginnings. "So, Emily, Jake, what's the plan? I mean, you've clearly thought this out. You're giving me the house, so I assume you're moving in with Jake here, huh?" Emily looked like a deer caught in headlights. Yeah, Tom. I was going to move my stuff tomorrow while you were at work." Tom clapped his hands. "Tomorrow? By tomorrow, the locks will be changed. You might as well get started now. Hey, Jay, you mind giving her a hand? I mean, you're stealing her, right? Might as well help her pack." Jake glanced at Emily, then back at Tom, clearly unsure of what to do. Before he could say anything, Tom shifted gears. "Actually, hold up, Jake. You and me, we should talk man to man. Emily can start packing on her own. It's the least she can do after all this generosity." Emily hesitated but eventually went upstairs to start packing. Tom poured another round and leaned back in his chair, giving Jake a once-over. "So, Jake, you're a lawyer, right?" Jake nodded, his shoulders a little tighter now. "Yes, I am." Tom grinned. "Good. That means you'll appreciate what I'm about to say. You ever sell a car or a house, you got to tell the buyer about any problems, right? You know, full disclosure." Jake chuckled nervously. "Well, yeah, but Emily isn't exactly a used car." Tom raised his glass. True. But let me give you some friendly advice, Jake. See, I've known Emily for over 20 years, and let's just say there are some quirks you might want to prepare for." Jake shifted uncomfortably. "Quirks? Oh yeah, quirks." Tom's smile was sharp. "For starters, you're going to want to keep an eye on her when she goes out for these so-called girls' nights. That's how you 2 met, right? She told me those nights out were harmless, said they were just a chance to unwind with her friends. Next thing I know, You're here drinking my champagne and asking for my wife. Jake tried to cut in, but Tom was on a roll. And another thing, Emily's got this habit of, let's say misplacing her wedding ring when she's out and about. I bet you didn't notice that, huh? Check her underwear drawer next time. That's where she hides it. Classy, right? Jake looked like he had just realized he walked into a lion's den wearing a meat suit. But Tom wasn't done. And let's talk about her workout routine. See, Emily's all about the gym right now. Pilates, spin classes, eating kale like it's candy. But give it 6 months, maybe a year. She'll quit the gym, start raiding your snack cabinet, and next thing you know, she's got a little pot belly and a whole lot of excuses. Jake cleared his throat. Look, Tom, I get it. You're upset, but Emily and I. Tom interrupted, raising a hand. You think I'm mad about you and Emily? Nah, man. I'm past that. See, I stopped getting love from Emily about a year ago. I'm just giving you a heads up so you don't waste your time like I did. Jake's face shifted from defensive to confused. He didn't know if Tom was giving him life advice or setting him up for some kind of trap. Either way, he didn't like it. Tell you what, Jake, Tom said, leaning in like they were old buddies. Let's make a toast. To new beginnings and to you figuring out what you just signed up for. Just like that, the sound of Emily rummaging upstairs reminded everyone that the night wasn't over yet. Upstairs, Emily was banging around, tossing stuff into bags like she was trying to beat the clock. Meanwhile, downstairs, Tom was working Jake over like a comedian at a roast, and Jake was starting to realize he signed up for more than just Emily's company. He signed up for all her baggage with no receipt. Tom leaned back, still holding court. You know, Jake, it's funny. Emily ever tell you about her love for honesty? Oh yeah, she's big on that. Loves to tell me how communication is key. But here's the kicker. She's been lying to me for years. Told me just last month she still loved me. Looked me dead in the eye too. With that Academy Award-winning performance. Jake shifted in his seat. Well, maybe she was just trying to. To what? Tom cut him off. Come on, man. You're a lawyer. You know the truth always comes out, especially when somebody's got an angle. Speaking of which, how long has she been feeding you our marriage was over line? Jake hesitated, but Tom wasn't stopping. Yeah, I figured. Let me guess. She told you we've been in counseling, trying to fix things. But it was hopeless. She painted me as some over-the-hill, clueless husband who doesn't get her modern needs. Jake nodded slightly, like a kid caught sneaking cookies. Something like that. Tom burst out laughing. Man, she played you. You think Emily's the only woman to ever get bored in a marriage? Nah, man. She's just good at spinning the story to make herself look like the victim. And here you are, thinking you're her knight in shining armor. Just then, footsteps echoed on the stairs. Emily finally had enough of hiding upstairs and stormed back into the living room. She had 2 suitcases, a carry-on, and a face full of, let's get the hell out of here energy. Tom ignored her completely, not even blinking. He locked eyes with Jake, who was sweating bullets. Hey, Jake, Tom said, his voice dropping an octave. You ever forgive somebody for cheating? Jake looked confused. What? Tom repeated, you heard me. If your wife, God rest her soul, ever cheated on you, would you forgive her? Jake leaned forward, suddenly fired up. Never. My wife would never disrespect me like that. We loved each other too much for that. Tom smirked and glanced at Emily, who was now standing frozen in the doorway, looking like someone hit pause on her remote. Well, guess what, Jake? Emily here cheated on me once before, right after we had our second kid. But hey, I forgave her. Figured it was the post-baby blues. But you know what I got for my kindness? The circus act right here. Emily snapped. Tom, stop it. Let's just go, Jake. Grab my bags, and we can leave right now. But Jake wasn't moving. In fact, Jake was looking at Emily like he just found out his lottery ticket was fake. Wait a minute. You told me you and Tom had an open marriage. Tom laughed so hard he nearly spilled his drink. An open marriage? Oh, that's rich, Emily. You really told him that? Wow, you're even better than I thought. Jake turned to Emily, his voice rising. Is it true? Did you lie to me? Emily's voice dropped to a whisper. Jake, Jake roared, standing up so fast he nearly knocked over the coffee table. Answer me, Emily. Emily flinched and backed up a step. Tom watched this meltdown with the calm of a man who's seen it all. He leaned back and took a sip of his drink. "Welcome to the club, Jake." Emily started crying, not the quiet, delicate tears you see in sad movies, but full-on ugly crying. She dropped her bags and sank to her knees, sobbing into her hands. Jake stared at her for a moment, then turned back to Tom, his face a mix of anger, embarrassment, and confusion. Tom waved him off. "Relax, Jake. I know you didn't know. Emily's been lying to me for years, so why wouldn't she lie to you?" Jake sat back down, running his hands through his hair like he was trying to massage some sense into his brain. Emily, meanwhile, was still on the floor, crying like a kid who lost their ice cream. Tom finally stood up, stretching like he just finished a workout. "Well, folks, I think that's enough drama for one night. Emily, you're free to go. Jake, you too. But before you leave, I got one last thing to show you." He headed to a door at the back of the room, opened it, and out walked two young adults, a man and a woman. "Jake, meet my kids, Marcus and Ashley. They've been listening to everything through the mic I set up earlier." Jake's jaw dropped. Emily looked up from her tear-soaked hands, her face a mix of shock and horror. Tom grinned. "Oh, I just thought my kids deserved to hear the truth about their mom. You know, full disclosure." Tom waved his son Marcus and daughter Ashley into the room. "Kids, this is Jake. Jake here thought he'd be your new stepdaddy." He turned to Jake. "And Jake, these are my kids, the only thing Emily couldn't cheat her way out of." Ashley, arms crossed and clearly her father's daughter, gave Jake the once-over. "Stepdad, please, I'd rather have a cactus for a parent." Marcus just shook his head. "Man, I knew Mom was shady, but this is next level." Emily scrambled to her feet, her face red and blotchy. "Tom, how could you drag the kids into this? This is between us." Tom raised an eyebrow. "Oh, now it's between us? Emily, you brought Jake into my house, onto my couch, and into my champagne stash. You wanted to involve people, so here we are." Jake's voice cut through the tension. "Hold on. You knew about all this? You set me up?" Tom grinned. "Of course I knew, Jake. Emily called me earlier today to make sure I'd be home by 7. Let me tell you something. When your wife insists you be home at a specific time, it ain't because she made your favorite lasagna. So yeah, I prepared. Poured some drinks, set up a mic, and waited for the show to start." Jake sank back into the couch, rubbing his temples. "Man, I don't even know what this is." Tom paced the room like he was doing stand-up at the Apollo. "It's a cautionary tale, Jake. A tale about trust, betrayal, and why you don't date a woman who's still married. You thought Emily was the missing piece of your soul. News flash. She's a puzzle with pieces missing, swapped, and straight up stolen." Emily tried to interrupt, but Tom cut her off with a wave of his hand. "You had your say. Now it's my turn. And since the kids are here, let's talk about them for a second. You know what Emily told me just last week, Jake? She said, 'I can't believe Marcus is considering law school. I mean, he's smart, but is he really lawyer smart?' Yeah, she said that about her own son." Marcus' jaw dropped. She said, "What?" Tom shrugged. "Hey, don't shoot the messenger. And Ashley, don't think you're safe. Emily's been telling her yoga friends she's worried about you being too independent, like that's a bad thing. Can you believe that? A woman who cheated on her husband twice is out here criticizing her own daughter for being independent." Emily's voice rose. "That's not true. I never said that." Ashley narrowed her eyes. "Oh, so now you're saying Dad's lying? You sure you want to double down on that, Mom?" The room fell silent for a beat. Emily looked cornered. Jake looked like he was praying for the ground to swallow him, and Tom was loving every second of this. Finally, Jake spoke up. "Tom, man, I didn't know. Emily lied to you. She lied to me. I feel like an idiot." Tom patted Jake on the shoulder. "Don't feel bad, Jake. Emily's been lying to everyone for years. Hell, if lying was an Olympic sport, she'd have more gold medals than Michael Phelps." Emily let out a frustrated scream and stomped toward the door. "I don't have to listen to this. Jake, grab my bags. We're leaving." But Jake didn't move. He just stared at the floor, shaking his head. "I'm not going anywhere, Emily. Not with you." Emily froze, spinning around. "What?" "Jake, we're in love. You said I was the missing piece. I said that because I believed your lies. Jake snapped, standing up. But now I see the truth. You lied to Tom. You lied to me. Hell, you probably lied to yourself. I'm done. With that, Jake picked up his jacket, brushed past Emily, and headed for the door. He stopped, turned to Tom, and said, "Thanks for the champagne, man. And the reality check." Tom raised his glass. "Don't mention it, Jake. Good luck out there." Jake left, slamming the door behind him. Emily stood there speechless, her whole plan crumbling like a house of cards in a windstorm. Tom looked at his kids. "Kids know what's up. And let's be honest, Emily, you can't stick around here. You're not about to bunk in the guest room, are you?" Emily stammered, her voice breaking. "Tom, please. I didn't mean for it to turn out like this." Tom laughed, a sharp, cutting sound. "Oh, you didn't mean for it? What did you think was going to happen, Emily? You roll up with Jake, hit me with divorce papers, and we all toast to your new life. Girl, this isn't a Hallmark movie. It's real life. And in real life, actions have consequences." Emily looked at Tom, tears streaming down her face. "I know I messed up, but I didn't mean to hurt you. I was just unhappy." Tom shook his head. "Unhappy? Emily, everybody gets unhappy sometimes. That's life. You don't burn down your whole house just because you don't like the wallpaper. You talk, you work through it, you figure it out. But you went straight for the nuclear option." Emily collapsed onto the couch, her face in her hands. "I'm sorry, Tom. I'm so sorry." Tom stood up. "You're right, Emily. You are sorry. And second, you need to figure out who you are without dragging everyone else down with you. Because right now, you're a sinking ship, and I'm not about to let you pull me or the kids under." Emily nodded weakly, wiping her eyes. "You're right. I've been selfish. I just didn't know how to handle things." Tom sighed. "Well, now you do. Pack your things, find somewhere to stay, and start figuring your life out." Marcus called out from the kitchen. "Hey, Dad, you want us to grab you a beer?" Tom smiled. "Nah, I'm good. Champagne's more my style tonight." Just like that, Tom sat back in his recliner, picked up his glass, and toasted to his new beginning, one without lies, betrayal, or Emily. As the front door closed behind her, Tom let out a long sigh and sank back into his recliner. Marcus and Ashley peeked out from the kitchen, cautiously stepping back into the room. "Is she gone?" Ashley asked, her arms crossed. Tom took a deep breath. "Yeah, she's gone." Ashley looked at her dad, her expression darkening. "What else did Mom do, Dad? You're holding back." Tom sighed again, running a hand over his face. "All right, you two are old enough now, so I might as well tell you. Remember your Aunt Sheila, Emily's sister?" Ashley nodded. "Yeah, what about her?" Tom shook his head. "Turns out, Emily didn't ask Sheila for help. She took the money behind her back. Sheila didn't even know until weird things started happening." Ashley looked down at her hands, her voice trembling. "How could she do all this? I mean, I knew she could be selfish, but this is next level." Tom leaned back in his chair, his expression softening. "Because Emily's always been about control. She wanted everything her way, all the time. And when she couldn't get it, well, you saw what happened." Marcus clenched his fists. "So, Mom sabotaged your career to keep you in check." Tom let out a bitter laugh. "Pretty much. I didn't put it all together until years later, but by then, the damage was done." Ashley looked up at her dad, her eyes filled with tears. "I'm sorry, Dad. You didn't deserve any of this." Tom reached out, pulling both his kids into a hug. "Hey, don't be sorry. We're still here, aren't we? We made it through, and now we got a chance to start fresh. No lies, no drama, just us." Marcus nodded, his jaw set. "You're right. From now on, it's just us." Tom stood up, his smile returning. "All right then, who's ready for pizza? My treat." Ashley grinned. "Make it a large. We've got a lot to celebrate." As they headed to the kitchen, Tom couldn't help but feel a sense of relief and hope. The storm had passed, and now they could start rebuilding, together.